So, I want you to close your eyes for just a second and really try to picture the ultimate super soldier.
Okay, setting the scene. I like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we are stepping directly onto the battlefields of the 41st millennium today. And, I mean, it is every bit the grim, chaotic nightmare you'd expect it to be.
Oh, absolutely. Visceral, apocalyptic, just sensory overload.
Yeah, exactly. The mud is flying everywhere. Artillery is, like, literally shaking the teeth in your skull. And the sky above you is just this scorched canopy of laser fire and orbital
It's
bombardments.
just an absolute meat grinder.
Exactly. And in the middle of all this, you've got these warriors. They are genetically forged to be absolute Titans, clad in massive, impenetrable ceramite armor, and they're dropping straight from orbit into these active, boiling war zones.
Right. The classic image of the Space Marine.
Right. Now, if you are looking at one of these Titans, you would inherently expect them to be, seeking glory.
Of course. That's the mythos.
Yeah, you'd expect them to be right at the front of the charge, revving a chainsword, maybe howling some ancient, blood-curdling battle cry, desperately trying to earn their place in their chapter's history books.
Because that's what heroes in this universe do, right? They die gloriously.
Exactly. But instead, this particular warrior we're looking at today, they step over the rubble of a shattered bunker, they fire their weapon with surgical precision, and their primary concern, like their absolute undiluted focus, isn't the enemy target they just turned to ash.
It's something entirely different.
Yeah, it is the telemetry data their weapon is generating.
It's a profoundly unsettling image, honestly.
Really is, right?
Yeah, the sheer juxtaposition of it. You have this unimaginable, visceral battlefield violence, and it's combined with the cold, sterile, almost detached mindset of like a statistician.
A statistician with a rocket launcher.
Exactly. You
Right.
have a being built for apocalyptic slaughter, and they're acting like an auditor.
Right, because it just completely subverts the mythology. When you look at the heroes of this universe, it's all about the romanticism of the warrior.
Yes.
And that is exactly the text we are diving into today.
I'm very excited for this one.
Me too. We are pulling from excerpts of the Scholar Soldiers, analysis of the Mentors chapter. And for those joining us, our mission for this deep dive is to explore a military faction that has taken the concept of war and basically stripped every ounce of romance, glory, and traditional honor right out of it.
They've completely excised the human element.
Yeah. We are looking at a society that views war strictly as an ongoing, infinite data-gathering exercise.
And you know why this is so vital to understand is that we as observers, as humans, we are hardwired to romanticize sacrifice.
Oh, totally. We love a good martyr.
Right. We want to see the last stand. We want to see the heroic charge against impossible odds. But this text, it forces you to just stare into the terrifying extreme of absolute uncompromising pragmatism.
It's not about being brave anymore.
No, not at all. It is about efficiency taken to a logical and, frankly, ultimately dehumanizing conclusion.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the text doesn't wait to shatter your expectations, right? It jumps right in.
It establishes the premise on page 1.
Yeah, it immediately establishes their core identity. It says they are scholar soldiers, and the philosophy they operate under is that knowledge, above all else, is the ultimate weapon.
Which is such a massive departure from their peers.
Right. They aren't relying on raw strength. They aren't relying on, like, religious fanaticism. And they certainly aren't relying on ancient relics like some of the other factions do.
They don't care about the relics unless the relics have good data output.
Exactly. They believe victory is just an equation. It's achieved through the perfect, frictionless fusion of science, technology, and military doctrine.
Exactly. Because for the mentors, war isn't an art form.
Right.
It's not an expression of willpower or some divine right to rule the galaxy. It is a strictly epistemological problem.
A science to be solved.
Yes, war is a science to be solved. And the only way to solve a science problem is to isolate the variables, gather the data, and run the experiment.
But wait, I have to push back on this right away because this was my first thought reading it.
Okay, go for it.
You're calling them adaptable because they rely on data, but aren't they just trading one rigid system for another?
How do you mean?
Well, if a mentor is completely enslaved to what an algorithm or a telemetry readout tells them to do, aren't they just as predictable as the honor-bound warriors? Like, if I'm fighting them and I manage to figure out their algorithm, I know exactly what they're going to do next.
That's a brilliant question, actually, but it assumes their algorithm is static.
Oh, and it's not.
No, not at all. The fundamental difference between an honor-bound warrior and a data-driven warrior is the speed of iteration.
Okay, walk me through that.
So honor historically, especially in this specific lore, it forces you into fixed behaviors.
Right, like refusing to back down.
Exactly. If you are fighting an enemy who values martial honor, you know they won't retreat from a one-on-one duel. You know they will hold a tactically useless, completely indefensible hill simply because, a revered ancestor died there 10,000 years ago.
Right, they have a reputation to uphold.
Honor binds you to a rigid set of behaviors regardless of the physical reality of the battlefield.
So they basically have an ego to defend, and the ego becomes the vulnerability.
Precisely. The mentors, though, they have excised the ego entirely. There is no shame for them in a tactical retreat.
Because the numbers tell them to retreat.
Right. If the numbers dictate that a retreat will drain enemy supply lines by, say, 14% over a 3-day pursuit, they will run away without a second thought.
Wow.
And if you try to exploit their algorithm, like you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
the moment your exploitation registers in their telemetry, the algorithm updates.
Real-time patching.
Exactly. They are constantly, continuously evolving in real time. A conventional warrior relies on muscle memory and thousand-year-old traditions. The mentors only care about the most effective kinetic action in this exact microsecond.
Man. And the text gives us this incredible quote that I think frames this whole concept perfectly. It says, in this universe, the most valuable asset is not a bolt gun, but the data it generates.
That is the thesis of the mentors right there.
So let's talk about the mechanics of that. What does that actually look like for you, standing on the ground when the trigger is pulled?
Well, we have to move away from the idea of a weapon as just a tool of destruction. To a mentor, a bolt gun is essentially a sensory organ.
A sensory organ, like an eye or an ear.
Exactly. When they fire, the macro sensors embedded in their gauntlets and the weapons casing, they aren't just registering a binary hit or a miss.
Right, it's more granular than that.
Way more. They are recording the micro fluctuations in atmospheric pressure. They are tracking the localized humidity, the gyroscopic recoil, the thermal degradation of the barrel.
Wait, they are tracking humidity while they're shooting at someone.
Oh, absolutely. Humidity affects trajectory. They track the exact biological splash pattern of the target. They even measure the fractional delay between their own cognitive command in their brain and their muscular execution.
That is insane. So they're essentially beta testing reality while they shoot at it.
Yes. That data is instantly fed into their tactical network, analyzed and synthesized.
In real time.
Instantly. So the next shot fired by that mentor, or honestly, any mentor in the squad who is networked in, is algorithmically refined based on the failure or success of the previous shot.
So the kill itself isn't even the point.
No, the death of the enemy is almost a byproduct. The bolt gun is the probe. The data is the actual prize.
I keep comparing it to an elite, weaponized sports analytics department.
Okay, I like that. How so?
Like imagine a championship game, right? But instead of the players desperately wanting to score the winning goal so they can hear the crowd cheer and get the trophy, they don't care about the score at all.
Right, the ego is gone.
Right. They're out there passing the ball, taking massive hits, but they are treating the game as a live fire laboratory just to test, like, the drag coefficients of their new jerseys.
That's a perfect analogy.
They don't care if their name is chanted by millions. They only care about the performance metrics.
And what's fascinating here is how incredibly alien that makes them to their own allies.
Oh, I bet. Because the rest of the Imperium is super dogmatic.
Exactly. You have an empire that sustains itself on myth, on towering statues of golden heroes, on dogmatic, unyielding faith.
Candles and incense everywhere.
Right. And right in the middle of it, you have these cold, calculating scientists who look at a glorious martyrdom and only see a catastrophic waste of a genetic asset.
They're just shaking their heads looking at spreadsheets.
Yeah, they just see inefficiency.
Which honestly begs a massive question for me. You do not just wake up one day, put on a giant suit of powered armor, and decide to be an actuary of death.
No, you certainly don't.
Human beings, even genetically modified ones, they aren't born with that level of detachment. Something has to strip the humanity out of you. There has to be a catalyst for this extreme psychological deviation, right?
There is, and that catalyst is rooted deep in their origins. To understand the obsession with efficiency, we have to look at the historical context of their creation.
Okay, let's get into the history.
We are talking about the 26th founding.
Right. The text dates their forging to the year 738 of the 41st millennium.
Yes.
Now, for anyone who knows the sheer scale of this universe, that makes them practically newborns. I mean, the major factions have 10,000 years of continuous, glorious, blood-soaked history.
10 millennia of tradition.
Right. They have lineages that trace back to literal demigods that walked among the stars. The mentors have, well, none of that.
Which is a profound societal and psychological vulnerability.
Oh, no.
Think about the Imperium. It's a bureaucracy that practically worships antiquity.
Oh, for sure. If it's old, it's sacred.
Exactly. If you are old, you are venerated. You have ancient pacts, sprawling alliances, and towering fortresses on multiple worlds. Being new means you have absolutely no established political capital.
You're just the new kids on the block.
You have no grand myths to inspire your recruits. You are a complete blank slate in a universe heavily colored by ancient bloodlines.
And speaking of bloodlines, here's the detail from the source that really twists the knife for me. Their Primarch is unknown.
A massive detail.
Right. We all know how much a chapter's genetic lineage dictates their entire culture, their fighting style, their flaws, their pride.
It's their entire identity.
Yeah. If you are a son of Gilliman, you are a statesman. If you are a son of Dor, you are a siege master. It's literally baked into your DNA. But the mentors, they are genetic orphans.
Genetic orphans, I like that phrasing.
They have a massive vacuum right where their core identity should be.
Exactly. They lack the foundational archetype. Without a legendary father figure to emulate, they are forced to construct an identity from scratch.
Which is hard enough.
Right, but the vacuum of their lineage isn't even the darkest part of their history.
Oh yeah, the inheritance.
It's what they inherited to fill that void that really sets their trajectory.
Right. Chapter 888. The text explicitly points out that while they don't have their own glorious history, they were handed the numerical designation of a failed chapter.
The Star Scorpions.
Yeah, a group the text literally calls ill-fated.
And, ill-fated is just the polite, bureaucratic way of saying they met a catastrophic, likely shameful, or horrific end.
To the point where they got wiped out entirely.
Exactly, to the point where the Inquisition or the High Lords left their numerical designation completely vacant.
But hold on, carrying the number of a failed chapter. That seems like a massive violation of all the superstitions that govern this universe.
It absolutely is.
It's like an airline retiring a flight number after a horrific crash, right? And then 50 years later, some new executive says, yeah, let's just use that flight number again to save money. Why would the Imperium do that? And why on earth would the mentors accept it?
It speaks to the absolute unfeeling bureaucratic inertia of the Imperium. To the Administratum, the people running the paperwork, 888 is just a slot on a ledger that needs filling.
Wow, just a blank box on an Excel sheet.
Exactly. But for the mentors themselves, the psychological burden of that is staggering. Imagine the pressure of your genesis.
Right.
You are born as a genetic orphan, you're handed the bloodstained jersey of a dead man, and you're told to go hold the line in the most brutal, unforgiving galaxy imaginable.
That is so heavy. So is this entire data-driven philosophy basically just a trauma response? Are they obsessed with efficiency purely because they are terrified of failing, like the Star Scorpions did?
I think that is the most logical synthesis of their behavior, based on the text.
Makes perfect sense.
Without ancient glory to act as psychological armor, what do you really have? You have to build your identity entirely on irrefutable, tangible results.
Because you can't point to a statue and say, we matter.
Right. They couldn't afford a single misstep. They couldn't afford the luxury of arrogance or the bravado of an honorable duel.
Because if you are chapter 888, version 2.0,
yeah,
you are acutely, painfully aware of your own mortality.
Yes.
Most Space Marines think they are invincible because their legends tell them they are. The mentors know, objectively, that a chapter can be entirely wiped from existence.
Precisely. They know the universe does not care about their titles or the color of their armor. So how do you prevent the failure of your predecessors?
You eliminate the variables.
You eliminate the variables that cause failure. Human error, emotional decision-making, pride, anger, the desire for vengeance. These are all variables that lead to tactical miscalculation.
They're liabilities.
Exactly. By replacing emotion with an airtight methodology, they are insulating themselves against the fate of the Star Scorpions.
Wow.
The obsession with telemetry isn't just a tactical quirk for them. It is an existential defense mechanism. They measure everything so they don't end up as just another footnote.
A trauma response disguised as a military doctrine.
Yeah.
That completely changes how you look at them.
It humanizes them in a very dark way.
It really does. They aren't cold because they're robotic. They're cold because inefficiency literally equals extinction for them.
Yes.
So how does this extreme psychological need for control and efficiency manifest physically on the battlefield?
Hmm.
We've explored their mindset, but the physical reality of their structure is entirely unique too, right?
Oh, their organizational structure is where their theoretical philosophy transitions into devastating kinetic practice.
Okay, let's break that down. The text divides them into two operational components, right?
Correct. The tutors and the elite cadre.
The tutors. Just
Right.
the nomenclature there is fascinating to me.
It's very revealing.
Right. They aren't called the destroyers or the executioners. They are tutors. Their primary mission isn't conquest. It is the gathering and dissemination of knowledge.
Which is very rare for a military force in this setting.
But it's their combat doctrine that fundamentally breaks the mold. The source explicitly states they do not fight as a single, unified, massive force.
Which is almost heretical in their military structure.
Right. Because you have 1,000 genetically engineered super soldiers. The standard playbook is to group them all together into this unstoppable spear tip and just punch a hole straight through a planetary defense grid.
The classic blunt instrument approach.
Yeah. But the mentors, they spread them out. Second, meaning they embed individual squads into other standard imperial military forces.
They act as, in the exact words of the text, force multipliers and field testers.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, because when you look at how they operate, I immediately compare them to highly lethal management consultants,
Okay, I can see that.
or even more accurately, embedded beta testers.
Let's explore that beta tester analogy a bit, but we need to look at the mechanics of how it actually works in a theater of war.
Okay, picture this. You have a standard Imperial Guard army. We are talking millions of regular human soldiers.
A massive logistical footprint.
It is a massive, clunky, chaotic, incredibly inefficient machine. The supply lines are a mess, the localized commanders are probably fighting each other for political clout, and the artillery's firing on outdated coordinates.
Standard Imperium warfare?
Right. Now, instead of sending their own massive army to win the war for them, the mentors just drop a single squad, maybe, 5 to 10 guys, into the command center of this massive, messy local army.
And they don't take over. That's the critical detail here.
Exactly. They don't usurp command, they just observe.
They beta test.
Yes. They're there to watch the local troops, maybe deploy a few experimental prototype weapons in live combat scenarios, just to see how they function under stress.
Right. Gathering more data.
Always. And then they gently, or maybe not so gently, tweak the tactics of the existing generals. They patch the bugs in the battle plan.
But we have to address the sheer friction that would cause.
Oh, the human element.
Right. How does a planetary governor or some hardened veteran imperial general react to a squad of 5 towering, silent super soldiers showing up, looking at his battle map, and statistically proving that his entire defensive strategy is fundamentally flawed?
They would hate them. It's ultimate hubris.
Yeah.
They're basically walking in and saying, you are doing it wrong. Your men are dying inefficiently. Let me run the numbers on my iPad.
It is absolute arrogance, but it is backed by undeniable results.
That's the kicker. They're right.
Always. The mechanics of a force multiplier are really fascinating when you dig into it. If the mentors formed up as one giant army, they could win a single planetary campaign, move on, and win the next.
Sure.
But it's an additive progression, 1 +
Yeah.
1 + 1.
Right.
But by injecting advanced tactical algorithms, superior real-time data processing, and cutting-edge experimental technology into a dozen different massive inefficient armies simultaneously,
Oh, wow.
the return on investment becomes exponential.
It's the ultimate use of leverage.
Exactly.
They are using the infinite grinding manpower of the Imperium as the lever, and the mentors themselves are the fulcrum.
Precisely. Let's look at a localized tactical scenario just to illustrate this.
Don't delay on me.
Say, an Imperial commander is preparing a massive frontal assault on an entrenched position. Classic meat grinder tactic.
Thousands of casualties expected.
Tens of thousands. Now, a mentor squad embedded with them deploys a swarm of microdrones. They analyze the atmospheric data, they cross-reference the enemy's structural materials against historical siege databases.
While the general is just yelling to charge.
Right. And the mentors realize the bedrock beneath the enemy's western flank has a microscopic sonic resonance vulnerability.
Oh,
The mentors don't lead the charge. They simply walk over, adjust the firing solutions of the Imperial artillery batteries by 3 degrees, sync the barrage to a specific oscillating frequency, and the entire enemy fortress just collapses into a sinkhole.
that is staggering. 1 million men didn't have to die in a trench charge purely because 5 guys ran the math.
And that is why the text notes, they have participated in numerous campaigns, making them absolutely invaluable assets.
They're fixing the Imperium one math problem at a time.
They gather the data on what works, they distill it into an optimized, flawless tactical doctrine, and then they disseminate it.
Hence the name tutors.
Exactly. They act as a viral cognitive upgrade to the entire Imperial war machine.
A viral cognitive upgrade. It sounds incredible on paper. I mean, who wouldn't want that?
From a purely logistical standpoint, it's perfect.
But this brings us to the heaviest, most disturbing part of our deep dive today.
The dark side of optimization.
Yeah. We have to confront the philosophical and moral cost of this extreme optimization. Because the text doesn't just celebrate them as saviors.
No, it takes a very severe pivot.
It does. It explicitly describes the mentors as the ultimate horror.
That phrase is a stark, very deliberate anchor in the text. The ultimate horror.
Right. In a universe saturated with cosmic terrors, biological nightmares, and literal demons tearing through the fabric of reality, the author chooses to apply the ultimate horror to a squad of data-gathering logisticians.
We really must dissect why that is.
Because it forces you to ask, what does this extreme efficiency cost the soul of humanity?
The text argues that the mentors represent the cold, pragmatic logic of the Imperium distilled to its absolute purest form.
War is merely a data-gathering exercise.
Right. They exist to improve the efficiency of an endless war, not for their own glory, and certainly not for the preservation of individual human life.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the horror of the mentors is deeply existential, isn't it?
Very much so. It is the horror of commodification.
Let's break that down for everyone. Put yourself in the boots of a regular soldier in this universe for a second. You are terrified, you're exhausted, you're covered in mud in some trench.
You're just waiting to die, essentially.
Yeah, and you look up to see a space marine drop into your trench. Biologically and culturally, you are hardwired to see a savior.
A literal demigod.
Right. And knight in shining armor who has come from the stars to protect you. But you look into the visor of a mentor, and there is no empathy.
None.
There is no nobility. There is no brotherhood. They are looking at you, and you suddenly realize you are just a data point to them.
You are a variable in an equation.
That's horrifying.
And the tragedy here is the profound destruction of heroism.
What do you mean by that?
Think about what a hero conceptually is. A hero is an individual who makes a conscious moral choice to sacrifice themselves for the benefit of others.
Right, it's about choice.
Yes. A mentor is incapable of making that moral choice because the math makes the choice for them. They are just a cog in the vast machine of war. A highly polished, technologically supreme cog, sure, but a piece of machinery nonetheless.
And what happens when the math demands a sacrifice?
That's where it gets truly dark.
Because if a mentor squad is embedded with your regiment, and their algorithms determine that sacrificing your entire division will yield critical, high-value data on the enemy's armor penetration capabilities.
They will just let you die, won't they?
Oh, they won't just let you die.
What do you mean?
They will optimize your deployment to ensure your slaughter provides the most accurate telemetry possible.
Oh my God.
They will actively position you to die in a way that generates the best data, and they will do it without a shred of malice.
Because they don't hate you.
No, it isn't cruelty. Cruelty requires intent and emotion. It is simply the calculus of war.
And that is the true horror. The line between a loyal, protective servant of humanity and a heartless, calculating instrument of war has completely vanished.
It doesn't exist for them.
The system has looked at its greatest, most powerful individuals and decided that their individual humanity, their capacity for moral choice, is entirely irrelevant compared to their data output.
It just strips the soul out of survival. It basically says, we will save humanity, but we will sacrifice every ounce of our own humanity to do it.
And consider the ultimate futility of their objective, too.
Futility? How so?
The text specifically states they exist to improve the efficiency of an endless war.
Right.
They are not fighting to win.
Wait, really think about that phrase. Improve the efficiency of an endless war.
It is the ultimate concession of defeat.
Wow, yeah.
If you acknowledge the war is endless, then victory is mathematically impossible.
Yeah.
Therefore, optimization is the only remaining objective.
You can't win, so you just try to lose slower.
Or lose more neatly. You cannot end the nightmare, so you optimize the nightmare. You make the meat grinder run smoother.
That is so dark.
And the fact that they're considered loyal servants for doing this, the fact that the Imperium values this above all else, it shows just how morally bankrupt and deeply fallen the society they serve truly is.
Optimizing a nightmare. That is incredibly bleak. It really forces you to reevaluate every sci-fi trope you've ever had
Hmm.
about the heroic super soldier.
It turns the trope completely on its head.
Okay, let's pull all of this together because we have charted a massive philosophical and historical journey through this text today.
We really have.
We started by looking at the mentors not as traditional warriors, but as scholar soldiers who view the battlefield as a live-fire laboratory, tracking telemetry instead of glory.
Right. And then we examined the deep psychological scars of the 26th founding.
They're the genetic orphans.
Yes, and how being saddled with the failed legacy of Chapter 888 drove them into a trauma-induced obsession with airtight methodology and data collection.
And from there, we looked at the sheer tactical brilliance, and let's be honest, the staggering arrogance of the tutors,
Acting as embedded force multipliers.
tweaking the variables of a battle in real time, turning the entire galaxy into their personal beta testing ground.
And finally, we confronted the existential dread they embody.
The ultimate horror.
The horror of becoming cold, heartless instruments of a bureaucracy, the commodification of heroes into biological algorithms who value a telemetry spike over the lives of the soldiers they fight beside.
And I think there's a profound, slightly uncomfortable connection here to our own reality.
Oh, definitely.
It's an extreme mirror held up to the modern world, if you think about it.
Hmm.
How often do we see vast systems today, whether in corporate structures, global logistics, or algorithmic governance, prioritize cold data and raw efficiency over the human factor?
It happens constantly.
Right. How often is the humanity stripped out of an equation just to make the spreadsheet balance perfectly?
It is a deeply sobering reflection on where unchecked optimization can lead us.
It really is. And as we conclude this analysis, this actually raises a really important question based on everything we've extrapolated from the source text.
A final thought for the listener to consider.
Exactly. So think about this. The Mentor's entire existence, their fundamental genetic purpose, is dedicated to gathering data, running the numbers, and improving the efficiency of the Imperium's endless war.
They follow the math, completely devoid of bias, wherever it leads.
Right. But what happens on the day their telemetry finally proves that the Imperium itself, this massive, dogmatic, superstitious bureaucracy they serve, is the single most inefficient variable in the entire war.
Oh, wow.
Right. If the data dictates that the masters are the flaw in the equation, if the algorithm decides the Imperium has to be excised to win the war,
Bro.
that is a chilling thought to leave on.
The ultimate logic problem.
Exactly. Keep questioning the data, keep looking behind the numbers, and we'll catch you next time.